Welcome, everybody.
Hey, hey. Good boy, Tucker.
Work smarter where you want.
This is learning at its most fun.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on another Thursday webinar. My name is Curtis. I'm one of the trainers here at Redtail, and today's webinar topic is different than what we've been doing for the past years and years of Thursday webinars at Redtail. We wanted to switch this up into more sort of a conversation, podcast style, where instead of we're not really diving in and learning about the CRM today. We're actually going to be looking behind the curtain at Redtail. We're going to learn a little bit more about how Redtail's operations work, which is why we've invited somebody from the team of DevOps to actually join us today. So before we fully introduce her, I know you see her already on screen, what we want to do is first, we're going to introduce ourselves. So again, my name is Curtis. I am a trainer at Redtail. What that means is I actually talk with users one-on-one. I do presentations, like these Thursday webinars, a lot of our different webinars we do. But I live in Sacramento. I'm currently at the Sacramento headquarters. I think there's like two or three other people here in this giant building right now, because majority of us are still working at home, which is fine. I chose our rocket room today. So we have this mural. We got a little dog in space. I love it. New background for me today. It is not fake. This is actually real, not a Zoom background. A lot of people don't think that, but that's okay. And we have my co-host today. We have Catherine. I'm pointing this way, but I really have no idea where she is on your guys' screen. But Catherine.
I'm here somewhere.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am Catherine. I'm another trainer here. So just like Curtis, I talk with users like yourself, answer some questions, hop on to webinars like these, do presentations that we've done. So again, same shaboodle, just different location. I'm coming from the ever toasty Phoenix, Arizona, which actually it's cool for once this week. So I've been soaking that up like crazy.
Now, does cool mean like 80 degrees or does cool mean like
low 90s?
Yeah.
So the answer to that is both. Yesterday it was 87 and I literally went outside and I was like, I don't know. It's just like I went out there. I'm like, oh, what is the sunshine? Some vitamin D, but it was nice. And then I've been with Redtail for coming up quickly on 3 years here. Feels like day 2 though, because I feel like we're always learning more things and getting randomly new questions, which Terry gets to kind of experience today. So
awesome. Well, with that, let's introduce who we have with us. So I'm introducing Tara Whitaker with our DevOps team. Say hello.
Hi, I'm Tara Whitaker, and I am our senior Scrum Master on our DevOps team here at Redtail. I've been here, it'll be 10 years in November.
10 years, that's a long time. I don't think I said I'm almost 9 years. I joined a year after Redtail, and I feel like we were both in support at the time, and almost sort of like I latched on to Tara as like sort of a mentor sort of thing, and she got me through, like it's through support onto training. So Tara is really like one of honestly like a foundation. What's the word? You're one of like the main people here at Redtail that Redtail is built off of, and it's just a long time, because 10 years. Oh my goodness. So Tara, let's get to know you first before we learn about like the work life. Let's talk a little bit about your personal life. You got tell us about you have family. Who are you?
Yeah, so I have 2 kids, a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I have a house here in Sacramento. I'm working at home and not in the office because we're all dealing with childcare issues and things like that in the pandemic world. I have just like a zoo at home to take care of as well. We've got a dog, of course. She's named Claire, and she's actually deaf. So we work with her with hand signs and things like that.
Wait, is it a requirement that all Redtail employees have a dog? It does need to be asked.
I don't know about you guys. I got one when I got him hired, like
They
literally.
they,
he's a puppy.
they literally hand you a dog on day one.
Yeah. And I mean, they sponsor through our local shelter. If you, at least, in each area's local shelter, if you want to adopt a dog, they'll hook you up with being able to do that as well. So
They definitely do. So zoo wise, so you got one dog, two children, a
yeah,
husband.
yeah. And then we also have 4 chickens, 4 hens.
Hence, all right. Do you go through that? Is it for eggs? Like, do you?
Yeah. So I mean, they're fun. They're fun to have. They're fun to raise from baby chicks and, do that with the kids and stuff. But then they give us lots of eggs. We have some dark brown eggs, some medium tan eggs, some white eggs. I'm hoping in the spring I can maybe get some Easter eggers, which will give us really cool, like blue and green eggs. So we could have like an assortment. But we've got 4 chickens. Their names are Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Hennifer Lopez, Princess Leia, and then Becky with the good hair. She's one of those chickens that has like the thing going on here. So
I love it.
yeah,
I absolutely love it. And I know earlier I saw there was a cat, right? There's
there
multiple
may
cats.
be another that like flies by at any point. I've got 4 of those too. So we have 2 female cats and 2 male cats that are all over the place all the time and rule the house.
I think you are correct when you say this is an actual zoo that you
Yeah.
have going on. So all of that, because there's eggs, does that qualify you as a farmer?
No, not technically, because of the area that we live in. You're not actually, you have to have chickens as pets. So you can't, like, I don't know, it's this weird loophole where you're not supposed to like sell their meat. That somehow puts you into a territory where you have to get like farming permits, I guess. So so technically my chickens are just pets. They're just pets.
Okay.
And then I mean we've done a couple of batches, so we've gotten a rooster a couple of times that we've had to get rid of. But sometimes sometimes they like attack you or attack the chicken, the hens and stuff like that, and they can just be mean and grumpy to each other too. So
Yeah, I've never really dealt with chickens, even though I kind of like grew up around horses and things like that. Like chickens were never a thing I directly interacted with. So I think it's really interesting, and I absolutely love the names.
The names, spot on.
Perfect. Now, what do you do for fun? So outside of work, which is fun, what do you do for fun outside of your animal household?
yeah, I am in a kickball league.
Ooh,
So
wait, I'm on your team.
we play kickball together, Curtis.
Yes.
So on Fridays and Saturdays we get together and we play kickball with a big red kickball. It's like baseball, but you kick it. And then it's also like dodgeball rules, so you can like get somebody out if you throw the ball at them. It's really fun.
This is actual adults and I guess me, Tara, actually a few other coworkers are on this team. Nick, our email team, Tony, and our development team. Like we all play kickball in a league, and I love it. I absolutely love it. It's actually, I think Tara, it's your fault that I've joined.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was bullied into joining this team.
I don't think bully is probably right. Just strongly encouraged.
Yes.
Brunch is involved, so
That's sold.
Say
it.
no more. There's that food, Kay. We told you somehow it'd get in here.
Yes. Brunch is a meal that is needed at least twice a week. All right, so let's start here. Let's get into some Redtail stuff then. Like how did you get to Redtail? 10 years ago? So think back on who was Tara 10 years ago and how did you get to Redtail?
Yeah, so after I graduated from Sac State, I was working at State Farm, and my friend Nick was working here in support, doing kind of some IT stuff, had just come out of some IT certifications. and said, you've got to check out this amazing company. The benefits are awesome. I can bring the dogs to work. They're always feeding us. Like, they're so fun. There's no dress code. You've got to apply. You've got to apply. So I applied and came in for an interview for the support team, and killed it, and got offered a position later that afternoon. And then, started taking phone calls and working on support, and competing on the phones with people like Curtis to see how many people we could help that day. And, well, I got 40, well, I got 45, and that.
It did get pretty competitive, but we had some strict rules where you had to help. You could not rush a person off the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd hope so.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. There were a lot of there was a sheet that we had to do things on. So, and then from there, I started to learn data and got into more of a data analyst position, and really started to do some of that stuff that you would call into support, and they would send a ticket off to a tier 2 specialist kind of person. Started to move into that kind of tier 2 realm.
Now with that, and in all honesty, I tried to follow Tara's career path in Redtail. I was a year behind her, and I was like, oh, if Tara's doing it, I'm going to do it too. And I think when I tried to start doing the data things, it's oh, I'm going to learn this. I learned that is not me. I am very much more of a talker than let me look at this, because it's like another language you have to learn. Is that right? So what's it called? If it's SQL, correct? You actually have to learn this, and there's so many other things on top of that you have just dove in to learn about. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of different languages, whether it's writing code or querying data. So SQL or SQL colloquially is one of the many different kind of database languages. And you can write out basically sentences, if you know the right syntax, to pull information or data from databases. And all of the information in Redtail is stored in these databases, which are kind of like Excel workbooks, but in the cloud. And they're all connected together through code and displayed to you on a page, right? So it's kind of this abstract concept, but you can use all of that information to make reports, to help do bulk updates, changes, imports, all of that sort of back-end stuff that we do. So it really gave me the opportunity to not only dig into how to transform data, but also to look at our customer data at kind of a higher level and see, where there were maybe some gaps in, processes and places where we could improve things. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
So then with that, because we've now established you started off with support, and here we are in DevOps. So what's your title now? What is it that we're actually, what'd you get to? I guess I should say is the best way.
Who are you?
What is this?
Yeah. So now I'm a senior Scrum Master on our DevOps team. And so myself and other Scrum Masters, what our role is specifically to teach our teams about Scrum, which is a specific way to manage processes and project manage. But at a higher level, to really do that sort of project management, making sure that obstacles and impediments are blasted out of the way for teams, and that teams know who to go to, where to go, what the next step is, how to move things along the pathway to get from user to development and then back to user, right?
So I can see sort of how you've projected through Redtail and learning the data and then project management and taking those. Like I said, I am not the person who can go over and manage these developers, but you really learned all this information and took it, used your strengths, and so you really just managed the development team, not in charge of them, but making sure that they're going through and getting things done. Then am I saying that correctly? Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, we had a more, they call it a waterfall style of project management, where it takes a lot of little changes and bundles them up into one big release and pushes that out once a month kind of thing. And I started researching, well, how do other companies, how do tech companies, how do they ship changes so quickly? How does Amazon do it? How does Google do it? How does Facebook do it? What are these big companies doing? That they're staying on top of their industry and their game, right? And a lot of it came back to this concept of agile project and process management, which is the ability to do things in small enough little chunks and iterations that small chunk delivers value, but also doesn't disrupt things, right? And it can be delivered really quickly. So it's something that we don't have to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to push out. We can do smaller things faster.
Awesome. So going through your title still, we learned Scrum Master is project management, but DevOps.
Yeah.
That's actually, I think, kind of a unique term that we have as a department. Can you explain what DevOps is? Like your actual department that you're in? What is that?
Yeah. So a couple years back, we had development team and we had an operations team full of system administrators. And our leadership decided that we wanted to have those teams have the same goals, right? Development's usually about building cool things and getting them out fast. And operations, they want things to be steady and reliable, and they want to keep the system running. That's their job. So we want to make that both of those things a priority for everybody. And what that meant was that we combined our system analysts and operations professionals into our development teams. And so they are now development team members, and they participate in all of our meetings, our conversations about what the scope of our projects are going to be. They work daily with the developers to help build out whatever they might need, whether it's server, network, IT stuff. And they're really a part of the teams now, instead of it being two separate teams with almost competing interests. Now we have the same interests and are working together towards the same goals.
Okay.
All right, so remind me, how many are on the team now? Because I always love when people ask that about training, and I'm like, that's a valid question. How many? And I'll sit there and literally go through the members. So how much does that break up now?
I want to say there's 27 or 28 of us, but it may even be 30. There's a lot of team members, and then they're split up into 5 product teams, kind of along our product lines. So CRM, email, imaging, speak, and then enterprise, which is our internal products, like our team's products for Redtail, but then also the login page. We have an enterprise platform for BD broker dealers. We have a kind of management page within the CRM where you can go manage your subscription. They're in charge of those sorts of user-facing projects as well.
See, that's something I didn't know myself until like maybe months ago, where the enterprise thing, it was always this word that I just heard thrown around, and I'm like, sure, I can fake a conversation through this. And then I learned, okay, oh, enterprise is this actual thing, because I always assumed like when you go to like manage your subscription, this is still part of the CRM, but it's not. Like it's looking at a whole separate area, because subscriptions that we have is different than the database that the user has. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting to me, because I just didn't know. And then even like Tara, like I know like smaller conversations we have, I was like, okay, our products, like our 5 main products, but you said we actually have, there's how many actual products does Redtail have? Like smaller? And
I think it's about 23.
That's a lot. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things, and there's so many different working wheels in DevOps. And I love that you sort of explained it. Like you have like the developer creating, the tool, and then the operations system ad guy making sure that making sure that, that this tool can run smoothly on this system. And it all works together. And I really love that you've sort of like just dove in, learned about other companies and how things should go, and built that. It's almost really like you were really excited. I remember every time you're like, I'm learning about this. And I'm like, Scrum, that's a weird word.
Yeah.
Like, what does it have to do with us?
Yeah. And that's even similar. Like I'm sure we've mentioned it before. Like we will hop on with meetings. I remember the first time I heard Scrum and Agile, I'm like, what do these mean? Like sitting here, I'm like, am I supposed to know this? I'm quickly Googling it, trying to figure it out. I'm like, I'm just gonna ask.
Yeah.
Tarek's like stuff like that.
I just smile and act like I know what's happening because again, like I just need to talk for a living. It's what I'm good at.
Perfect. Well, so we've learned a couple of things now. Just kind of take us through what's a typical day for you look like?
So for me, I work with all of the teams, and so in the morning, each team gets together and does a daily stand-up or a daily Scrum meeting. And we practice Scrum, which is one framework or kind of way of working under the Agile umbrella. And Agile is really just a way of process or project management that is quicker than your traditional waterfall style step down project management. And so Scrum has kind of these rules, and those rules really revolve around, like you said, events and meetings. So every day we have a daily stand up, and that's just 15 minutes. The team comes together and they talk about what they're working on, what they've finished, anything that's, in their way from, getting their job done, what they need to coordinate together, hey, I'm going to leave early because I need to take my dog to the vet, whatever it might be.
We only allow excuses that involve your dog if you need to leave. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If I had a nickel for every dog at the vet excuse, no. Yeah, it's definitely a time for the team together, come together, connect. Usually we talk about, what the fun holiday is that day. There's always a food related one. Every day there's probably like 15 to 20 holidays. I'm not sure what committee is in charge of making them up, but sometimes they're ridiculous. So we'll usually have some fun and just chat because most of us are remote. And it's our time to kind of connect every day. The teams will usually use, we have Slack, which is a messaging chat app that we use as a place to have huddles. They have this feature where you can have phone calls, and so they'll all get on the phone and you can kind of join their chat room, hop on the phone with them, talk to them, screen share, whatever. And it's almost like they have their own little offices that they're hanging out in every day, all day long, which is really fun and cool. And then depending on the day, each team works in 2-week cycles. And so every 2 weeks, we're doing either, we're doing a series of events. We're doing a sprint review where we come together with stakeholders and we show off the work that we've done. We talk about the goals that we had for our previous 2-week iteration of work, our sprint of work. And then we talk about what we did to accomplish those goals. We talked about where we got in the process, what's changed in our environment that may affect goals in the future. And then from there, we go into a retrospective mode where we talked about, in regards to people, processes, tools, what was working about the last couple of weeks of work and what do we want to do better next time, right? And sometimes we'll create action items for the next couple of weeks of work. We want to tweak things this way. We want to, everybody's going to post, when they're done with this specific step, that way everybody's on the same page or whatever it might be.
And so these are actual, when they're going through and building out maybe new features or fixing like a bug that we might have discovered. Is that correct? Like that's what is being discussed in this. Like, yeah, what is the actual thing, the changes we're making?
Yeah.
So when you said 2 weeks, it's normally every 2 weeks we do have a rollout of changes to the CRM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after that retrospective, usually all those changes that we've made over the past couple of weeks that haven't been pushed out, we'll push those out as kind of a release to finish that sprint. And we try to push out things like bugs as quickly as we can. So they might not wait the whole 2-week cycle. They might go out as soon as they're fixed. Okay. But sometimes there's coordination we need to do with the marketing team and things like that. And so features we might release more like on a 2-week cycle.
Yeah. Now it's with this, Now, this is a question that I'm a little like, I just want to let you know, the users that are listening, like Tara is, from my understanding, not in charge of what is the goal, correct? You're about making sure we get to those goals, but you don't have control over saying, hey, we're going to create this, or we're going to create this. We do have other people like product owners that are in charge of sort of helping creating the goal, as well as like you guys have recently sort of looped in us trainers, I believe. And I will admit, yesterday I was supposed to be on the CRM meeting for the dev, and I did have to get a few other things done, but you've pulled in the trainers because I love that this is happening, because we're kind of speaking for the user now. Is that correct? Like am I understanding my job?
Yeah, I call us like the camp counselors. We're there, we're supposed to know like what the feedback, what's going on. But again, we, just like Tara, won't make those decisions. We give that feedback. And then Tara listens in going like, oh, that makes sense, or explain.
Was there a reason why that decision was made, that you guys wanted us in? Like, I know, I'm asking you.
Yeah, it's great to have those advocates for the user, right? And trainers are really subject matter experts. You can have one-on-one conversations with users. You can do some of that even, research and kind of dig into, well, how are you using this workflow, and watch how people are using the product. Tell us where the pain points are. You're really on the ground floor every day, along with support and sales and others. But while our product owners are digging into data and doing that business analysis to figure out what's going to deliver the most value given our goals as a company, you're advocating for the user and saying, hey, that's valuable. I notice when users do this, this happens. So maybe when we're thinking about doing this thing on the roadmap, we should think about that and build it out this way or that way, right? It's really having those collaborative conversations about what's real and how people are really actually using our products, to make sure that they're getting the most out of it and we're making it as easy as possible.
Absolutely. I love that. And I do love speaking on behalf of the user. I've been known to be a little dramatic at times during meetings. It happens.
No,
I get
heard that before.
Passionate is what it is. But I do love that. That's one thing that really has stuck out about Redtail to me, is that they really do look at like, who are our users? What do they need? I mean, we are already industry specific, so it's financial advisors. But we really do look at the users. Now, again, like, we're not going to dive in and like say, hey, we're not asking for suggestions right now in this webinar. But I also want to point out, like, you as the user have the ability to throw suggestions to us, where you can actually, in the CRM, go up to the question mark, and there's a button after you hit the question mark that says suggest a feature or enhancement. And you can actually type in suggestions that come to us. And actually, that is what gets filtered to like the product owner, and the product owner sets the goals, and then Tara looks at the goals, and then things move, and all the things that I dumb down to explain because I don't even understand it starts happening. And it's honestly, it's amazing to me. Now, Kay actually asked us, she's one of our favorite users. She joins us on most of our webinars. Kay asked us, why did we change the voting to where you have to log in or link to like a Google? Now, Kay, I will say that the user voice, we're sort of looking at it right now to sort of make it easier to control the traffic and things like that. And we've been getting a lot of spam coming to those, where like people, not people or robots or whatever a cloud is, I don't know, comes in and just makes these fake suggestions that are actually like trying to sell. And we don't want our users to actually click on something that might be wrong. So you logging in to something sort of just says, hey, I'm a real person. I am not a robot. Although the other day I saw this video on TikTok where it actually had a robot click the I am not a robot button. Machines are learning. They are absolutely learning. So again, like if you do have a suggestion for Redtail about what you want to see, help with our goals, things like that, the suggest a feature enhancement on the help desk page is a great place to go. So I definitely suggest going there. And Tara, like what kind of things have you seen come through that? Is there anything that comes to mind that, hey, this came from a user and we went with it?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that we've taken directly from user voice and put right into the CRM. And usually we'll pull from some of those top ideas and figure out how to incorporate them into our roadmap with our products. And so, I mean, geez, there's been so many things that we have implemented from user voice. Like
I know the no contact report, like people are asking, hey, who haven't I talked to? I think that came through there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And even things like being able to see, dynamically, if I have a new activity on my dashboard or my calendar and having that pop up, or sometimes even bugs come through user voice and somebody will say, hey, I think this should work this way. And we're like, supposed to work that way. Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's helpful.
And actually, I didn't even want to piggyback because I know sometimes, like when we're in trainings, we're like, it's such a big request. Should I really put it through? There's no like limit, like, oh, it's got to be, tiny. I can fix it in 10 minutes. No, it could be a big, extravagant idea. I mean, just even look at like the last couple months, pronouns. That was something that for some offices is a huge deal. Others, it might not be. So that's where I'm always, if you're looking for it and it's not there, suggest it. You might not be the only one looking for it.
Absolutely. Now I heard a word, and that word happens to be on my next question on this list. You said roadmap. Can you tell us this? I'm not asking to give secrets away, but can you tell us anything about what's on Redtail's roadmap currently?
Yeah. So we have, like I said, 5 product teams and like 23 products. So there's a lot that we have going on. And every team has their own individual roadmap. So for example, some of those back end teams, like the enterprise team, they're working on some things like major upgrades to our own user database. We also are working on updates to the UI, making things more consistent looking for all of our products. Not like a major overhaul, but things like, oh, there's more than one color red. Let's do them the same color red. There's a slightly darker color and a slightly lighter color, Redtail red. Let's make them the same. Those
And
sorts of
when you say UI, just
user interface, I'm sorry. You're talking to developers, so sometimes if I say anything that you're like, wait, what does that mean? Stop me for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I've picked up by listening to development meetings, and I think UI is pretty general anyway, but like they really do talk in like doctors, like where they say, hey, I need an EKG on the MRI, or I don't even think that's
the acronyms to more acronyms.
Yeah. It's really fun when you try to explain something like story points to somebody. Even that term sounds silly when you're trying to explain it to somebody.
Actually, I love the story point ones, because I was one of the people you had to explain this to. The first dev meeting I joined as a trainer, and they're going over story points, and I think I started messaging Tara on the side, or I might have just said, hey, can you guys stop and tell me what's going on? Yeah. Tara, can you explain what the story points are? Like what does that even mean?
And what that's relating to?
Yes.
Yeah. So kind of what Catherine was saying, you'll come to us with these big ideas, you trainers. And then what our teams do is we try to break those ideas down into, smaller pieces that we can iterate on, right? We like to use fun analogies. Like if you want us to build a car, we're going to start with a skateboard. Okay, so how do we make you a skateboard? And we need a way to estimate how long it's going to take us and how hard it's going to be to build that skateboard or that car or whatever it might be. And so we use story points to do that. And story points are based on the Fibonacci sequence, which is a mathematical formula where you basically add the previous 2 numbers together to get the next number. So it's 1, 3, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and so on. Okay. We use that scale and we give points to items, and we do it based on not like the amount of time it's going to take, but rather effort. So like, how much effort is it going to take? Are you going to have to do it in 37 places, or complexity? So maybe you only have to do it in one place, but you have to spend 3 hours researching before you actually make the change to the code, right? So based on a combination of effort and complexity, you give it a guess. That's story points. And that helps teams figure out what their capacity is to take on new work. It helps executives and leaders and product owners figure out how big ideas are and how much we can, deliver and when we're going to do that, so that we can do things like build out the roadmaps.
I love that. So like for the story points, is there like a certain amount per, like it's sprints, like a 2-week sprint of how they're like developing the new update or whatever it is? Like how many story points does, like, is it a person or is it a team that like accumulates those?
Yeah, so we do it on a team basis. So a team takes on story points as a whole together. They may pair together or swarm, where more than 2 people work together. We call that swarming on an issue, like a little hive of bees. And they work together to accomplish those goals in that sprint and get those issues to done, those items to done. And those story points help tell us what the capacity is for the whole team. And sometimes somebody might take a day off, or we might have a holiday, so their capacity might be lower. And sometimes they might just be knocking things out really quick. Things were easier than they thought they were. And so we'll pull stuff in because we have a large backlog full of lots of items. As you said, we have a roadmap where we have future plans for things, right? Things like, imaging updates, speak updates, CRM changes, all kinds of good stuff coming. And those things need to be really broken down into small enough chunks where pushing out those changes isn't going to totally disrupt everybody's day. We want you all as users to have a really smooth workday whenever we can possibly make that happen, right? So whatever changes we make, we want to make them easy to train, easy for you all to learn. And yeah.
Well, I absolutely love that. So before we like let you go, if there are people on and you have like a question for Tara, I'm assuming you probably can't answer like very specific things about why certain things like aren't going a certain way, which is fine. But if you do have a question for Tara, go ahead and type it in the Q&A, and we'll go through those and ask her for the time we have. But while you're typing those in, Tara and Catherine, we're going to ask her some fun questions with this. Tara, what's your favorite snack to eat during a development meeting?
So I do a lot of facilitation. I'm like, sharing my screen. I'm prompting people to do response. I'm, kind of running the meeting, so to speak. And so you really can't have things that you're like chewing a lot. So I do a lot of coffee.
Oh God.
Can't have those noises
No.
happening. None of that. Yeah. So I like a lot of trail mixes. I think that those are really good because you can just pop a little bit in your mouth and chew it real quick and then, talk when it's your turn.
Trail mix, especially if they have the M&Ms, it helps so it's not as dry and it's just like, okay, you can eat it faster, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's see here. So if it's just kind of a little quick question, I feel like we've all kind of developed, in a way, questions or quirkies or hobbies that we've just kind of, I don't want to say adapted to in the pandemic, but we really have. So what's something that you really didn't do or really weren't invested in prior to us really working from home and having to adapt? So what's just something fun? You could take it for personal or you could take it for work. I'll leave it up to you.
Something that I've gone into in the pandemic. I am definitely way more into my plants than I've ever been. I like my house is covered in potted plants now. I sing to them, I talk to them, I go around like watering all of them every day. Like everybody gets a little bit of filtered water. Before I'm like dumping half day old coffee into my plants, like they'll be fine. But now that I'm home, I'm like, oh my bees, my plants. And I bought a bunch of clippings at the very beginning of the pandemic and grew those into, big house plants. So yeah, definitely have a new plant obsession.
Well, you even did a class for Redtail about, was it tomatoes? Like how to grow tomato plants? Like, so this was a big thing that our people ops or our HR people were like, hey, we need to keep people connected during the pandemic while we're all at home. You actually had an idea with Nick, and you guys taught us how to grow tomato plants. Like I skipped it. I'm not gonna lie. But
we got an herb kit, and my basil's actually growing, and I feel like I am Tara anymore. I go over, I'm like, oh, look at you thriving. Look at you, just yes.
That's so awesome. I did the lettuce, and it is delicious. Like fresh. There's nothing like some just fresh lettuce snipped right out of your garden. You gotta wash it though, because bugs. But yeah, no, I've always been into like outdoor gardening, and I like to grow salsa ingredients, so tomatoes, jalapenos, that sort of thing, cilantros. But yeah, the indoor plant thing is a new thing for me. Nick and I did do a webinar as part of our people ops department's kind of, pandemic connectivity to show everybody how to do gardening at home, right? And then kind of how to have their own little victory gardens, and also how to take care of indoor plants too, and how to trim them, and what's normal and what's not normal, and how to get rid of bugs and all that good stuff. It was really fun.
Absolutely love that. All right, well, Tara, thank you so much for joining us today. I know like we took an hour out of like, I know you're always busy. Trying to talk with Tara is always, she's like, maybe in an hour, maybe not. I can't know. She is probably one of the hardest working people we have at Redtail. So thank you so much for joining us in this new style webinar that we're just gonna hopefully maybe do for some other teams. But again, if everyone joining us, if you do have any further questions about anything Redtail related, feel free and reach out to us at 1-800-206-5030, option 3 for support. Or you can even just send us an email to support@redtailtechnology.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I hope you all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
Almost the weekend. Thank you, Tara. Yes. Let's don't forget, we got practice for kickball tomorrow at 6. I will see you then. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.